The training hall hummed with a sterile, polished calm. It was a sanctuary for learning, a place of reinforced desks and holographic potential. But the illusion shattered the moment the transfer student arrived. He didn't just enter, he breached. The atmosphere cracked. Conversations died mid-sentence. A dozen different species stiffened, an ancient shared instinct rippling through the room. They were prey, and a hunter had entered the fold. The instructor's own crest flattened against his skull. The alien Talaric stood carved in the doorway, pupils narrowing to predatory slits as he scanned the class. His world, a hyper-predatory crucible, sculpted him. You could see it in his stance. Anything that failed to dominate died. He held himself with that lethal certainty, shoulders angled, hands ready. He wasn't meeting classmates. He was inventorying threats. Rumors of his expulsion, of turning a previous classroom into an arena, crystallized into terrifying fact. He was 7 FT of corded muscle, a blue-gray predator adapted for explosive violence. But his eyes were the true weapons. They moved with cold, steady calculation, and every cadet he assessed visibly recoiled. Most looked away except the human. Second row from the back, Noah Martin. He just watched. No fear, no challenge, just an unreadable stillness. The alien lingered, perhaps sensing this anomaly, before moving with silent, fluid grace to the rear of the room. He didn't sit. He stood a century, awaiting the first sign of weakness. The instructor, recovering, began the lecture on intricacies cohesion. The irony was suffocating. Talek ignored the hollow display, his gaze dissecting the students. He read their spiking pheromones, their panicked blink rates. Ian activated a med strip, his system overloading, and still the human remained a void. 9 minutes in, Talaric spoke, his voice a low cut that sliced through the lecture. My last school feared me. They were right too. The room held its breath. We take, we dominate. I put 3 in the infirmary. If you aren't worthy, you won't last. Silence. Then a sharp metallic ping. A false corridor alarm. The instructor turned instinctively. It was the only opening Tarek needed. In a fractional second, a curved blade snapped from his palm with a metallic rasp. His spines flared. He unleashed his true weapon. Concentrated dominance pheromones. A chemical wave of terror. The vein collapsed instantly. Others choked, whimpered, or stumbled, pupils blown wide with primal panic. Talek stepped into the aisle, blade high. Only the strongest deserve this academy. Chaos erupted. Cadets scrambled, desks toppled. The instructor recoiled, the pheromones hitting him like a neurotoxin. And still the human hadn't moved. Then his chair slid back, not with panic, not with urgency. A single measured motion. Noah Martin stood. Every sound in the room died. Talek turned. The sight was wrong. The human wasn't afraid. No wide eyes, no trembling, no submissive posture. For the first time, Talaric felt an instinct. He couldn't name. It wasn't fear. It was nothing. The human's gaze met his, not in challenge, but with a horrifying ancient familiarity. Talaric had seen that look before, in the deepest jungles of his home, whirled from things that watched his species from the dark. Things that didn't run, things that waited. He stepped back, an involuntary retreat. The pheromones stopped working. The human took 1 step forward. It was perfect. Balanced, controlled, silent. His center of gravity rock solid. It was muscle memory forged not in atomies but in places where hesitation meant extinction. Talaric smelled something new, something worse than a threat. He smelled mercy and understood. With chilling clarity it was the only thing keeping him alive. The blade clicked softly back into his arm. He sat. The human sat a heartbeat later. The instructor, gasping, managed 2 words. Class dismissed. Later in the empty room, the instructor asked the question burning in everyone's mind. He had a blade. Pheromones. You had nothing. Noah shook his head. I had plenty. I had 10,000 years of violent conflict on a planet that weaponized everything. I had instincts from ancestors who survived wolves and wars. And I had the advantage. What? I didn't want to fight him. Noah's gaze was flat. He was testing boundaries. I stood to give him the chance to stop before. I had to show him what happens when humans fight for real. While the medbay processed cadets suffering sympathetic shock, all except Noah, whose vitals remained at resting. Talek stared at his bulkhead. He was raised in motion and violence. Stillness he'd thought was weakness. He saw his mistake. Stillness was control. The human had waited for peak dominance, then stood not to fight, but to end the moment. He replayed that single perfect step. No opening, no tell. The predator muttered an old phrase from his world. The fight I started ended when I blinked. The next day, Talaric returned. The class tensed. He walked past the back, past the middle, and sat 2 rows in front of Noah. It wasn't submission. It was recognition. True strength, it seems, doesn't need to be loud. In the halls, cadets gave Noah space, not from fear, but a new respect. Talaric, no longer posturing, met Noah's gaze. A nod, an acknowledgement. The challenge was over. In the next lecture, the instructor explained, controlled sympathetic override, a human trait of compartmentalization. His body floods with stress hormones. The instructor.
Noted, yet his behavior remains calm. Talaric spoke, his voice quiet. When I saw you stand, my body recognized something my mind did not. Not prey, not threat. Something else. Noah finally looked up. I didn't stand to dominate you. I stood because you were about to hurt people. The simplicity of it, protectiveness over dominance, shook the predator more than the confrontation itself. Talaric confronted him later. You should have killed me. You put the blade away, Noah countered. That doesn't erase the challenge. It does for me. Talaric stared, confused. You terrify me. Noah just shrugged. A lot of things taught me not to be afraid of you. The non-incident became a case study. In the combat lab, they watched a hollow reconstruction. Noah rising. The algorithm, analyzing the posture, flashed one word, unengageable, the instructor explained. Talaric didn't see a threat. He saw the absence of a fear signal. For his species, that is worse. Talaric confirmed it. Madness trembles. Noah didn't break. Noah corrected them from the back. It's adaptation. We didn't get to the top because we were strongest. We got there because we watched, waited, and learned when not to start something we didn't need to finish. Talaric found him again, haunted. I dreamed of the step. It wasn't a threat. It was the decision to be ready. We fight to protect, Noah said. Then why do you win so often? Talaric demanded. You die so easily, Noah met his gaze. We don't win by being invincible. We win by not giving up. Talaric finally understood. He bowed his head, a gesture of pure respect. On the observation deck, the instructor found Noah. You burned a lesson into him. No simulation could how to stop a war before it starts. But the lesson wasn't finished. The academy called a voluntary assembly. The hall was packed. Instructor Jarrell stood. He stopped to fight with a choice. Talaric himself rose. On my world, strength is force. On Earth, it's restraint. I drew a weapon. He answered with stillness. Noah was called to the podium, uncomfortable. I don't have a speech, he began. I stood because I've seen what happens when no one stands. Back home, we lose people when that happens. His voice was quiet, yet filled the hall. Some of you think I didn't feel fear. I did. But I've learned to feel it afterward. You don't need to be brave to stand up. You just have to decide that standing is better than sitting. Still, while someone else gets hurt, he stepped back. There was no applause. Instead, one by one, the cadets rose. Talaric joined them. They stood not in salute, but in silent shared acknowledgement. Weeks later, new cadets received a briefing file, unarmed incident response. Inside, just the footage of one human rising and the instructor's final note.